My name is Annie Erzinghaus, and I grew up here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. Water is vital for all living beings, especially in the desert. Here, we use it for agriculture, and alongside our wildlife, we drink it. And when it gets hot in the summer, I use it to cool down. But what happens when that water runs out? So growing up here, the ditch used to be full from February till October. That's 9 months out of the year. And now, it's only full for 30 days, for 1 month, from June to July. The irrigation seasons have gotten shorter and shorter. We used to be able to come and catch crawdads in the ditch when I was little. We would love seeing the roots of the trees comb along the bottom, and we would call it dragon hair. But all that's changed as I've grown up, and I've started to wonder why. If you take a closer look at the ditch behind my house, you'll find shells embedded along the bank. They used to be able to survive when irrigation seasons were longer. Now they're just a mark in the dirt, an indication of how things used to be. I know we're in a drought, but what else is causing our river to run dry? The first person I wanted to talk to was our state climatologist.
My name's Dave Dubois. I am the state climatologist for New Mexico. I've been here since 2010, and I'm also a faculty at NMSU in the Department of Plant and Environmental Sciences. One of the big things I start conversations off with when we're dealing with water, climate, environment is, what do you value? It all depends. Somebody who lives in the city, they may not even know where their water comes from. I've gotten that question. And I've asked that question to kids, it comes out the spigot. I said, yeah, but where does that water come from that goes into the spigot? And it was a puzzle. I had no clue. Here, it's all over New Mexico. We're seeing a rate of increase of about 0.7 degrees Fahrenheit to 0.6 degrees per decade, increasing. So this is there's various ups and downs in the temperatures, but if you draw a line through it, there's an upward increase very clear since the 1970. One of the things we're seeing is the freeze dates. They're going farther out. You have to go, which translates into longer growing seasons. And for some people that's good. A lot of us, it's bad. There's pests that live longer and less snow because it's warmer. I always ask folks, if you got an hour and a half, drive up to Elephant Butte. And it's not very far from here. Just go out there and then look where there's a white residue on the sides of the hills. That's where water used to be when the lake is full. And right now, as of today, it's like 12.7% of that maximum capacity. So there's a lot of different things at play when we get talking about drought and lack of water and, what do we need to do about it?
Next, I went to talk to environmental scientist Araceli Tejas, who specializes in water science.
The way the river is actually being used is more of like a faucet where it gets turned on and off. And this is just by all the dams that we have all along the river. And so it's usually turned on when you see the water flowing because it's going to be sending off to the crops. And this thing is just getting lower and lower. And so there's just like less water coming in. There's also just the connection that there is to the aquifer, which people don't really think about. There is a big relationship between what we see as surface water and groundwater. And we have a big tie to the river because we can see it and we can physically see the changes that are happening when there's like less water and how the environment is being impacted. But what we don't see, and one of the biggest issues that our area should be a concern about, is also our groundwater. So about 80% of the water that we use is actually getting pumped from the groundwater. The river only supplies the other 20%, and even that, all of that goes to your agriculture. Think about groundwater as a support that's holding up the water in the river. And because we're pumping at very accelerated rates, we are lowering that number, and so there is not that support, like there's not a sponge that's kind of holding up the water up in the river.
I mean, agriculture uses a separate water source than drinking water. We need to conserve and work on both. It is a finite resource, and we need to, conserve that as much as possible, not go crazy. We have to look at wells and how far you have to go below surface till you reach water. And you have to look at it on maps. And so it takes a little bit of effort to see how it's been changing. And then you look at maps of time, the groundwater levels over time. In a lot of the places, it's declining, so you have to go further down in order to find good water. There's a lot of people who don't have the money, who can't, and so those are the people who are much more vulnerable, and those are the ones we tend to not think about.
Pecan orchards are one of the main landmarks of Las Cruces and New Mexico. But our number one competitor is Georgia, whose rainfall is 50 inches a year. New Mexico's is 15. So should we really be growing pecans here?
It's dire because like this time of year, this is spring, so this is our dry time of year. But there's a few places that really haven't had any rain since October. That's a long time. The soils are like just super dry right now. I mean, you dig a hole and it's just powder. It's just, forests are taking a hit right now because not only they're seeing the drought impacts direct, but also the indirect from the infestations from beetles and things like that attack forests that are already stressed. We're seeing that all over the place. We got like tens of thousands of acres burning right now, and it's crazy.
Before this documentary, I didn't have too much information on our situation. I didn't exactly know where my water came from or how much was used for agriculture. I've come to learn that this irrigation season of 2022, farmers are going to get 5 inches of water per acre. Last year they got 18, and they are allotted a full amount of 36. Elephant Butte Dam is currently at 12.6% capacity. And there are many more places like Elephant Butte that are in danger. Lake Powell, that produces hydroelectric energy, is at 23.7%. And if it drops to a certain level, it's in danger of not being able to produce electricity for its 5.3 million customers. So the next person I wanted to talk to is Dr. Greg Terrell, who works in natural resources and environmental economics. And I wanted to talk with him about the relationship between water and power.
We've built these cities, we've built a society, and everything relies on water. There's just no way around it. We rely on aquifers. These aquifers are completely finite. In some sense, it's even more challenging in the borderlands region because we are sharing this resource across 2 states and 2 countries. The other thing too is that water is used for power plant cooling, and that's something that a lot of people don't think too much about. Big power plants that we've built in the past for a past world. One of the best tools that we have is desalination. The problem with desalination is that it takes a ton of energy to desalinate water. So you have this kind of wicked problem of having to use water to cool electricity plants from the water source that you needed to desalinate for drinking water. The more you desalinate, the more electricity you need. The more electricity you need, the more cooling water you need, which reduces the amount of water you have available in the aquifer. Water is, in some sense, so plentiful that you flush away your waste with it, but it's so scarce that it's one of our biggest crises.
According to a 2014 Government Accountability Report, 40 out of 50 state water managers will expect water shortages under average conditions in some portion of their state over the next decade. So You're all probably wondering the same thing. What are we going to do about it?
What is the answer to the water problem?
It's always a hard topic because it's not a one-fits-all solution and then everything's going to be great.
Looking at less water, resource-intensive crops and how to deal with that and what kind of economies need to be created from those. Discuss more of the vegetation that fits with the changing climate.
We can always support more groundwater recharge programs or kind of invest in ways for there to be groundwater recharge. There's always, kind of rethinking the way that we're growing here. I will always emphasize the fact that we are the desert and we don't act like we're in the desert. But there is so much technology out there. There's so many different water cleaning services that have been evolving for so much that there is the potential to kind of continue to reuse our water instead of being used once and then never again.
We got to work with a lot of folks and to come up with better solutions and start using those and demonstrating those and encouraging people to try these things. Our office runs a citizen science program to measure precipitation. It's called Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. The rain gauge is the only thing you buy, set it up, and then report it every day. We'll take everybody. We really need that information because there's not a lot of data out there and we rely on the citizen science networks to kind of fill in the gaps.
I feel like people would be willing to make changes if they kind of understood where the bigger picture is coming from. It gets, a little political and like making sure that we understand that the politicians that are representing us have the best in mind for us, but also for the environment and for our future selves.
We resist change. We don't like to change. It's unknown. We like to do what we've been doing, and we kind of are in a rut, and we're just any day life is like that. So we don't want to do it, and unless somebody actually forces us, then we probably won't do it.
It's going to definitely affect us in the future, whether we want it or not.
I know we're headed in the right direction. It's just a question of how long is that going to take and how effective are we going to be at it.
We need to get people more aware. I think education is a big part of that. It's not just the conservation, but it's the start of the conservation is the awareness.
So as Americans, we're used to this culture of comfort. As our population increases and as we keep harming the planet, we're going to be no longer able to sustain our current level of comfort. So we need to learn to live with less. We need to learn to ask questions, to dig deeper, to fully understand the problem, to then be able to make systemic changes. Because right now, it's too easy to waste water, to turn on a faucet and leave it running. What are we going to be leaving for future generations? I want to end with a clip from the author Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune. And he said this in the 70s.
We have the latitude to do enormous changes in this society. We have the energy resources to make these changes. However, these are not simple changes I'm talking about.
No, they're not.
No, they're not really simple changes. We're just going to have to bite the bullet on some things and say this is going to cost us. I say frequently that I do not want to be put in the position, I refuse to be put in the position of having to tell my grandchildren, and I have grandchildren, I'm sorry, there's no more world for you. We used it all up.